Well, hello there. Welcome to Decoding Defense Mechanisms. My name is Terry Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss, the essential guide to talk true, be seen, and finally live free. So let's talk about defense mechanisms, shall we? Psychological defense mechanisms. Listen, we all employ them. That is the reality. When we feel afraid, angry, or not masterful, we're in a situation where we don't know what to do. It's a way that our minds automatically try to protect us from feeling uncomfortable or anxious or feeling anger. Unconsciously employing defense mechanisms is completely normal. That is the way the brain works. Being aware that you are doing it or using them without understanding the underlying anxiety, feelings, or whatever it may be that you are blocking, this really gets in the way of you being able to create healthy boundaries. So it's super important. So I'm not going to go over all of them because there's a ton of defense mechanisms, but I chose the top 5. And in this little vid, I'm going to talk about my top number 1 psychological defense mechanism. So I'm going to start with, have you ever heard the phrase, denial is not just a river in Egypt? Have you ever heard that corny phrase? I bet you have. That's how popular the notion of being in denial is. We hear it in pop culture. We hear other people talking about people saying, oh, they're in denial, she's in denial, he's in denial. But what does it actually mean? Well, this occurs when you refuse to accept reality, that you find a way to block it out, that you literally deny, that is why it's called denial, things that are painful. You want to avoid the emotional impact of something, so you just act like it is not happening, literally. Painful feelings, painful events. This is one of the most widely known defense mechanisms, as I said. And it's something that if you see someone and you're like, wow, they are in denial, you see them denying reality, a lot of times, lots of people around that person are like, how could they not see it? Seems so obvious, whatever the thing is. So I want to know from you, do you feel like you use denial as a psychological defense mechanism? Did this resonate with you? Are you like, yes, and maybe someone in your life you feel like is this way? Drop all your info below. Let's talk about it. Also, I will catch you in the next video where I'm going to go over the second most popular common defense mechanism, displacement. Okay, I'll see you there.
What is projection? It is basically unconscious defense mechanism that we do when we feel something uncomfortable and we don't want to feel it, we don't want to experience it. So not only are we suppressing it, but we're actually making it your problem. We're actually putting our feelings and our thoughts and everything that feels uncomfortable inside of us on your lap. So I'm giving you the responsibility of making me feel better because I feel this way. That's essentially what projection is. So first of all, the ego loves projection because it doesn't want to take any responsibility for what it feels. That's why someone who struggles with a narcissistic personality disorder or has it or just has a lot of narcissistic tendencies cannot take accountability or responsibility, and they will project all the time because the ego is always up front and center, and it doesn't want to acknowledge that, hey, this is actually my stuff and I need to probably own it in order to fix it so I can feel better. It doesn't want to do that. The ego just wants to blame you and put how I'm feeling.
Defense mechanisms. These are the mental gymnastics we all do, usually unconsciously, to avoid bringing painful thoughts and feelings into our conscious minds. All of us have an outside me, the person we present to others and maybe even to ourselves. This person is socially acceptable, meets the norms, and we feel comfortable with this self, and others feel comfortable with this self too. But all of us have an inside me, someone we might not want others to know. Sometimes we don't even know that inside me very well for ourselves. We might not like who we are inside. We might have a lot of shame for some reason, and that's too painful for us to know about. The bigger the gap is between inside me and outside me, the more likely we are to need defense mechanisms to rescue us. And the way that defense mechanisms rescue us is that they push the shame that we feel on the inside into blame on the outside. Here are some common defense mechanisms. Displacement is the classic story of how the boss is mean to you at work, and then you come home and poor Fido meets you at the door, and you kick the dog and you say, "This stupid animal is always in my way, makes me so angry." Projection assumes that others feel and behave how we deeply feel. So for an example, for an addict who feels extremely entitled and needs his addiction and will do whatever he needs to keep that addiction, he might say to somebody else, "You just want what you want. You just think you can have it your own way all the time." Rationalization, that's the story that we tell ourselves about why things are really not so bad as they might seem. For example, the alcoholic who comes into a counseling session and says, "Well, the drinks were poured. What was I supposed to do?" Reaction formation. Shakespeare called this, "Methinks the lady doth protest too much." And the classic example here is the preacher who rails against women and against immorality in this present age. And then you find out that he has a terrible porn problem and a paid account with Ashley Madison. So what do we do with defense mechanisms? The first thing we do is take responsibility for ourselves and think about how much our insides and our outsides are matching up. We recognize those times when we are displacing our anger, projecting our emotions, rationalizing our behavior, and generally overreacting. And when we've done that, then we can ask ourselves, do I want to continue to avoid reality, or am I ready to face my pain and see what's driving this crazy behavior? And the second thing that we do with defense mechanisms is we recognize those times when we are the target of somebody else's defense mechanisms, and we understand that that person is trying to avoid reality, and if we argue, engage, and try to fix them, we just create drama that helps them to avoid reality. And so what we need to do instead is create healthy boundaries that will remove us from being their target, so the other person can decide what to do with their pain besides take it out on us. I hope that helps you like it's helped me. Okay.
How can I figure out when I'm splitting and when the person in question is actually toxic? The real trick to beating this is just to know when you're doing it. Today's question is all about borderline personality disorder and splitting. When someone has borderline personality disorder, they tend to see people as all good or all bad, meaning that someone who is good can't make a mistake, and someone who is bad cannot be kind or thoughtful. When someone does something that we find hurtful and we get rid of them, we're protecting ourselves, right? We're preventing them from abandoning us or hurting us further. And so if someone shows some of those bad signs, we get rid of them. We end that relationship right away. But what this actually ends up doing is pushing everyone in our life away and leaving us isolated and alone. And it can be really, really hard to notice when we're doing it, and even harder to stop. Be a detective. Notice if you're using words like always or never, and then look for evidence to argue against the thought. Have they really never been there for you? Are they always hurtful and rude? Actually think about it and see if you can come up with some evidence to support another way of thinking. If you can find that evidence, then it's quite possible that you're splitting. If you do see a pattern of them harming you, treating you poorly, lying, etc., then they may just be toxic. Recognize when you are triggered and work on becoming more aware of the things that hurt you and trigger this defense mechanism, because that's what splitting really is. So is it when you feel put down? Maybe when you feel ignored, overlooked? Check the facts. Or using HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, to reduce our vulnerability to our emotion mind. And we could do impulse logs to slow our responses to any upset. Start paying attention so that you can get better at recognizing what it is that upsets you most and causes these black and white thoughts. That way, if we find ourselves wanting to end a relationship, we can check in to see if we're just triggered or if they really aren't worth having in our lives anymore. Now, what I find interesting and kind of ironic is that people who are in relationships with people who use splitting as a defense mechanism tend to see the BPD person as horrible, hurtful, and just bad. It's almost like splitting causes a self-fulfilling prophecy. My patients always talk about how splitting, once we put a name to it, ends up causing more self-harm urges and hatred for themselves. Much of BPD is anger in, even though a lot of people tend to only want to talk about the anger outside of it. So the sooner we can recognize our urge to split and manage it, the better it'll be for everyone. I hope this helps, but as always, feel free to share what has helped you in those comments down below, and I will see you next time. Bye!
Your grade doesn't define you. Your character does. 15 years ago, I told our class advisor in 4th year high school, "Sir, can you give us a chance to prove our worth?" And then he asked me back, "Can you expound on it?" And I wasn't able to respond at all because I do not know how to explain it. But I know deep inside, it is rooted from the fact that I am not good at academics. And maybe I am looking for something else that I can do to prove my worth, right? And to also encourage my classmates who are not good at academics as well. However, I used that quote in a wrong manner. What do I mean? I use your grades doesn't define you, your character does, as a defense mechanism not to study well in academics. I know that I can improve on it, but I didn't because it doesn't define you. When you were in high school, you have lots of excuses, right? So that was my mistake way back then. If I knew better, I would have done better. I can improve on it. I may not be on the top 10, top 1, but I can improve on it. Because of that, up until there, I do not know geometry, algebra, physics, chemistry. I do not know them, actually. Even in Filipino, the nang and the nang, the ng and the nang, I do not know how to use it properly. Because, I'm not good at it. So that was my mistake. And I do not want anybody else to do the same. That's why I'm sharing it to you, to inspire you to not be like me. To not make that kind of quote a lame and poor excuse for a man not to study well in academics. Okay? And because of it, I was able to be more self-aware about my strengths and weaknesses. I know that I'm not good at singing, I'm not good at dancing, and I embrace it. I do not need to pretend to be somebody else that I am good at it when I am not, right? So you have to be yourself. And because of the fact that I am not good at it, I'm looking for something that I'm good at. For example, in logic, in reasoning, maybe I'm talented about it or skillful with that kind of subject matter. So I just focus on my strengths. Some people are saying that you have to improve your weaknesses. Yes, I agree. I agree. But for example, if I will improve on being a good dancer or a good singer, I know that I will not be able to reach the professional level. I will not be able to convince people to pay me just to sing for them, right? So why would I focus on it? Why not focus on the things that I can manage, that I know that I'm good at, that can build my self-confidence, and maybe to earn money, right? And of course, the most important thing is, whatever you are good at, you have to use it to inspire somebody else, to encourage somebody else. If you're good at academics, use it to inspire other people who are also striving in their academic subjects, right? You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot teach what you do not know. So let's focus on things that we know that we are good at, or that we can be better at, or that we can maximize to encourage and inspire other people. And that's what I do. I always find things in me that I can improve on, that I can use to, of course, inspire other people. I can inspire you to be a good singer because I cannot teach you or I cannot train you to be a good singer. You have to find somebody else, some mentors, some coaches, some trainers, right? So I just want to share everything that I have. Maybe little by little, it will encourage you to do the same for other people. So I hope you learned something worthy here. And thank you so much for always tuning in. Always, you're always liking, sharing, and reacting to our posts. Thank you so much, everyone. And as always, bye bye.